Good afternoon, everyone. Today we turn to one of the most remarkable collections of political writing in world history, the Federalist Papers, written between 1787 and 1788 by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, John Jay. These essays were published under the pseudonym Publius to persuade the people of New York to ratify the newly drafted U.S. Constitution. But their influence has gone far beyond that moment. The Federalist Papers have become the definitive commentary on the American Constitution, a window into the minds of its framers, and a timeless exploration of the challenges of democracy and human nature. Our lecture will move in three parts. 1. The historical context, why these essays were written. 2. The philosophical ideas they contain. 3. Their enduring influences on American government and political thought. Let's begin with the backdrop. In 1787, the United States was a fragile union under the Articles of Confederation, a government so weak it could barely function. There was no executive branch, no power to tax, and no authority to enforce laws between the states. As Hamilton lamented, the Confederation was a government destitute even of the shadow of energy. Each state acted as its own sovereign, issuing its own money and pursuing its own interests. The young nation faced debt, unrest, and foreign vulnerability. The Constitutional Convention of 1787 sought to correct this, creating a new system of government balancing liberty with effective power. But the new Constitution was controversial. Many Americans feared it would recreate the tyranny they had just escaped from Britain. So, Hamilton, Madison, and Jay launched a series of essays in New York newspapers to defend it. Their goal was simple but profound: to convince a skeptical public that liberty required order and that a strong but limited federal government was the surest guardian of both. The Federalist Papers are not just political propaganda. They're a profound meditation on human nature and the science of government. 1. Human nature and the need for government. In Federalist number 51, Madison wrote the famous line, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary." Here lies the heart of the Federalist philosophy. Government exists because human beings are both rational and self-interested. The challenge is to design a political system that channels ambition through structure, preventing any one branch or person from dominating. 2. Checks and balances. The Federalists argued that the Constitution's separation of powers, legislative, executive, judicial, would preserve liberty by setting ambition against ambition. Each branch would have the means to resist encroachment by the others. This wasn't blind trust in leaders. It was skeptical realism about power. 3. Federalism. Another key innovation was dividing authority between the national and state governments. In Federalist number 39, Madison described the new system as partly federal, partly national, an experiment in shared sovereignty designed to unite without uniformity. 4. The extended republic. Perhaps the most revolutionary argument came in Federalist number 10. Madison tackled the age-old problem of faction, groups driven by passion or interest that threaten the common good. Classical thinkers like Aristotle and Montesquieu believed republics could only survive in small, homogeneous societies. Madison flipped that logic. He argued that a large republic with many competing factions would actually protect liberty better than a small one, because no single group could dominate the rest. In modern terms, Madison invented pluralism, the idea that diversity of interests is a safeguard, not a danger to freedom. 5. Energy in the executive. Hamilton, in Federalist number 70, made a passionate case for a strong unitary executive. He wrote, "Energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government." For Hamilton, an energetic president meant decisiveness, accountability, and the ability to act swiftly in crisis, balanced, of course, by constitutional limits. More than 2 centuries later, the Federalist Papers still shape constitutional interpretation. Judges and scholars cite them as authoritative evidence of the framers' intent. In fact, the Supreme Court has referenced them in more than 200 opinions. Their influence extends far beyond America. Constitutional framers in India, Latin America, and Europe have studied the Federalist Papers when designing their own governments. But their deeper legacy lies in their views of politics itself. Hamilton, Madison, and Jay did not believe human nature could be perfected. Instead, they sought to design a system that could survive human imperfection. As Madison put it, the Constitution must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. In a world where polarization, populism, and distrust of institutions have returned, the Federalist Papers remind us of a fundamental truth. Freedom depends not on the virtue of leaders, but on the wisdom of institutions. In the end, the Federalist Papers are more than a defense of a document. They're a defense of reason itself in politics. They remind us that liberty is not the absence of restraint, but the balance of power and principle. And they continue to ask a question every generation must answer anew. Can we govern ourselves wisely enough to remain free? Thank you.